Hello. Yesterday we learned about painting some super simple landscapes, and you can see that I'm using the sketchbook paper. I I know I gave you guys little landscape like postcards, and we will use these. We're just gonna save these until we've practiced a little bit, um, and they will be more our final landscape paintings. So I want you to go ahead and make sure that you're using your sketchbook paper while we're practicing. We will go back to these little landscapes as we learn how to paint trees. But today, I'm just going to flip this over and I'm going to go ahead and paint on the back side. Again, I can paint sideways if I like, or I can paint up and down. Tape is great. So you can see yesterday I had taped between, but if you don't have tape at home, you don't need to use tape. So I'm not going to use tape today, actually. I am going to go up and down today because we're going to be making what I call fancy sky. So we're going to paint today landscape, super simple landscape like yesterday, but we're going to paint one that's like sunrise or sunset. So it's going to be all the colors not blue. And the other one is going to be a stormy sky, which is, again, all the colors not blue. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pencil and I'm going to make like a little border. So I'm not going to paint all the way to the edge. And I'm going to leave a little gap so that they don't blend into each other. Let's see, I'm doing that with a pencil. And I'm preferring to do up and down today just because we're going to paint a lot of like cloudy sky, and this kind of landscape is just sort of more interesting if it has a little bit more sky space. So just like before, I'm going to take my clean water and I'm going to put a little bit of water, just drip some water into each of the colors of paint that I think I might use. Just so they can soften up a little bit. And then I am going to just mix up. We will paint like back and forth, just like we did yesterday. We have to kind of wait at certain points when we're working with watercolor for the paint to just kind of dry a little bit. So I'm going to take my paintbrush again and I'm going to mix up, I'm going to grab some blue. And you'll see that I'm making quite a big pile of paint out here on my tray. So I'm actually moving a little puddle of water out here. This seemed to be a problem yesterday. Some of you guys, it just looks like you're painting a little dry, so you're ending up with stripes in your sky. And I am making a pretty big puddle of paint out here in my tray. Also, this is kind of a lot of water. So my sky will be lighter blue than just taking blue out of the paint color bucket over there. I know that I'm going to have a bunch of clouds, so I do have some paper towel ready, but I am also going to show you a little bit different technique that could work for you for making clouds. So I'm going to start here at the top, and because I know I'm making clouds today, I'm going to go ahead and sort of paint with that in mind, and I'm not going to paint everywhere. We're going to go back and we're going to make these clouds have colors like sunset or, like I said, sunrise. And you'll notice that I'm going to start painting them a little closer together because remember, they get closer together the closer they get to the horizon line. And I'm just now going to add some water. Now, the great thing about sunrisey or sunsetty sky is all the fabulous colors. And so I'm going to let this like the sky part dry a little bit, but down here at the bottom, I know that I need to add just a little bit of color. So while this is wet, I have grabbed just some red that I mixed with a little bit of water. And I'm just going to push that in here right now. Just to start to make that kind of glow of sunset. I don't want to add too much. I just switched to yellow. I don't want to add too much yellow right now because when I mix yellow in with my blue, it's going to turn green. We don't want a green sky. But I am going to start to bump some of this yellow up into some of my clouds here. Just so that I start to have that sensation of sunset a little bit, or sunrise, either one. So you can see I'm going to go back and grab a little bit more red, and I'm going to start to give the clouds some structure. So I'm putting the red at the bottom edge of the clouds, because if there are clouds, that is where the color catches. So you could watch the sky. If there are a few clouds, that's where the clouds keep the color from the setting sun or from the rising sun. Either way. So like I said, I'm doing this while my blue sky is wet, and I'm putting a little bit of the super watered out red at the bottom, and I just cleaned my paintbrush off, and I'm going to just dab it on my paper towel a little bit. I'm just going to soften this top edge. So I just have a clean paintbrush. I don't want there to be this hard stripe on my clouds. And so I'm just going to bump that around a little bit. Again, I clean my paintbrush off. I'm going to dab off the water. And now I'm going to come back just for a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in the top side of the clouds. So I put the pink on the bottom. And I'm putting that little bit of golden yellow at the top. Now, because I've done all this while it was wet, you can see that I'm starting to have this giant puddle here in the middle. So I'm going to try, I'm going to take my paintbrush, I'm going to squeeze it dry, and I'm just going to try to move some of this around or to suck some of it up. It actually ends up looking like a really dark cloud, so I sort of don't mind it. A little happy accident action. And there we would have, like I said, sort of sunrisey. Now for the ground. Because the sky is this color with the pinks and the yellows and everything, what that means to us on the ground is that my ground isn't going to be brilliantly green. So I'm going to start back here at the back, and I'm going to start with I grabbed a tiny bit of black, but I have a lot of water, and I'm going to put in some purple. So I know this just looks black, but I'm putting in purple, and I'm going to grab some of this blue. I don't want to just use black. Black is too harsh a color. And so I'm trying to mix up a color that will feel the right color for the background here, but not be actually black, black, black. I'm actually going to test this color over here. Oh, yeah, it's like a grayish purple. So that should work. And I'm going to start back here. And instead of flat today, I am going to, so you can see that this is a nice grayish color. Remember, background, the farthest background from us is the lightest. So, and also I'm going to give us the hint of maybe a little bit of trees back here. Could add just a little bit more purple. Oh, That's too much purple. So I want just the hint of a little bit of cloud or a little bit of trees in the far, far distance. And a little bit of trees in the far, far distance just ends up looking like lumps. There aren't any details back here. Remember, farther away means smaller. It means less detail. There we go. I'm also watching, like, my sky is still pretty wet, and so I'm getting a lot of like drifted up color. So I don't, I'm bumping in a little bit extra purple as I see that it's drying up there. Now I'm just taking, I clean my paintbrush off and I'm just going to take a little bit of water and I'm rubbing this along the edge of my, that tree line that I just put up there. And I'm pulling that kind of grayish purple down. So you can see that starts to feel, and I'll have to go back and I'll have to darken that line a little bit because everything is really wet right now. I can then add some red. Just thinking that the sky, when it's that color, is going to really impact the color of the ground. So the color of the sky really impacts the color of the light. So I'm going to just bump a little bit of, just a little bit of super watered out red just to have this feel like the ground. So you can see now ground and I'm moving my paintbrush back and forth. And then as I run forward, I can mix a little bit of gray in, or purple in with this green and move this down here at the bottom. Grab a little bit more of this pink. I don't ever really want this grass to get completely green. But I do want it to change color a little bit as it moves to the front. There we go. Just squeezed my paintbrush dry again and I can lift off a little bit of that color back there so that it feels more distinctly like trees. Sunset, very plain ground. Sunrise, maybe if I put a little bit more yellow. Put some yellow in here. Make it feel, there we go. Warm up that a little bit. Because my sky is very yellow. So if you put a lot of pinks and purples in your sky, go ahead and put a lot of pinks and purples in your ground. The sky, like I said, the sky color kind of reflects the landscape color. All right, stormy sky. I'm going to do the clouds the same way, but I'm going to use this dark purpley business that I made over here. Again, I'm going to test the color a little bit. It's maybe a little bluer than I wanted it to be. It just depends on what kind of storm you're having. So I'm going to go ahead and paint my sky the same way. Knowing that I'm going to make clouds, and I'm going to have a very dark kind of stormy sky. But I don't want white clouds this time. I want my clouds to be gray. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint. I'm going to make this lighter. So I just added water. Lighter as we go down. Now I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to lift out a couple of the clouds. So this is the lift out method because I don't want fancy white clouds like in the happy sky. I want this to look like a stormy sky. So I'm using my paper towel. And remember a tissue. And you can see I'm using my same towel. I don't need to get a fresh paper towel. Just have a paper towel that sits here in my stuff. Notice that I'm making the clouds kind of get closer together as they move toward the horizon. And I want them to overlap. So now what I'm going to do is come back with more of my darker paint and I'm sort of going to define the clouds here a little bit. So I'm bumping in that same blue, purpley blue gray that I used for the sky. And I am kind of going around the clouds a little bit so that they feel a little lighter. Also going to bump clouds in, or some color into the bottom. So you can see I'm sort of defining my cloud structure by making the sky around my clouds a little darker again. I'm running out of paint now, but that's great because I need this sky to get a little lighter as we go to the bottom. I suppose this also could look a little bit like it's about to be nighttime on a sunny day. Just making a darker color, darker sky. I can use paper towel again. So like if I feel like that is too harsh, I did also just squeeze my paintbrush dry. I'm gonna soften some of those edges. So this is just a squeezed dry paintbrush. And you can see that a squeezed dry paintbrush also picks up paint. It doesn't put paint down, it takes paint off. So clean, dry, squeeze it. And now I can soften things. Okay, I'm gonna let that kind of dry a little bit up there. If I want it to be darker, stormier looking, I certainly can add more dark and stormy spots. If you're stuck for what it looks like when it's stormy, you can go ahead and pull up a stormy sky image on your computer for reference if you like. I'm going to do the same kind of thing back here. I'm going to use the exact same color that I've been using for my sky here. And I'm going to make the illusion of like a line of trees in the background. So I'm going to just sort of make lumpies back here. And they're just gonna fade a little bit into the sky here. If I want, I can have something look a little like a pine tree, but I'll have to do that later in a minute when the paint comes a little closer to being dry. I can make this line of trees looks like it's in front of this farther line of trees just by pulling that paint down a little bit. Now I'm gonna get a little water. So I just rinsed my paintbrush in a little bit of water, and I'm gonna pull this down a little bit. Now I cleaned my paintbrush off and it's dry. And this section of the painting, I'm going to have to go back and paint again when it's closer to being dry. So again, this is just me, clean, dry paintbrush, pulling that color so I don't have blank spots in my painting. Now I'm going to use a little bit of green in this same color as my sky. So I just put a little bit of green in there, and that's really bright. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down here at the bottom. And now I'm going to try to blend the two together. So because my sky is stormy, I am making sure that my grass also looks very stormy. And that it doesn't look brilliantly green. But it is getting brighter as it comes down to the front. Some darker areas. So I can go back and I can add more of these like darker spots, which sort of defines, like you can kind of start to have it feel a little bit like the landscape. And what I can also do is, if this is dry enough, I can come back here and I can make this darker again. So you can see now this will start to feel a little like just some trees in the far distance. No details, just a couple of trees poking up into the sky. Don't get carried away. Clean my paintbrush dry. Pull this down a little bit. And there you go. Now you can see that we have our stormy sky. We have this line of like faint trees in the far background, and we have this line of a little bit closer, what's more than likely trees. It's far enough away that we can't tell any details, which is normal, and then our grass. So have fun. Give both a try. Sunrise, sunset, stormy, stormy. Post a picture to Google Classroom of your practice work. Thanks.